What is up? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day. Back here with some more RE4 Remake gameplay for you. And Capcom, you are very dirty. You are very dirty because I'll tell you this right now. Anyone who watched that Summer's Game Fest knows if you didn't show that off at the end of the show, oh my god, you were going to be one of the dirtiest developers for doing it I've ever seen in my life. If you know, you know. But yes, we did finally get the reveal of the latest in Resident Evil 9, or as we should call it, Resident Evil Requiem. That is a thing. We finally have a trailer. We finally have something to go off of and not blind speculation. We even have a release date right front and center here, coming out next year, February 27th. So we finally have a date to look forward to and a trailer to actually talk about it. So let's discuss it. We start out a trailer inside an FBI office where we see a young woman writing an investigation report, and that was basically the first cue that this had to be Resident Evil, seeing that a bunch of people dying by unidentified disease. But the interesting part is that all these people were discovered in an abandoned government office, which obviously, you know, government hasn't been the most popular thing in Resident Evil, so no surprise there. But then another surprise came at me. So the young woman is basically going to be the main character of the game. And her name, when I heard it, I thought, it sounded familiar, but I didn't quite put the pieces together. But her name is Grace Ashcroft. And basically, I heard that, and at first, I'm like, okay, I guess it's a brand new character. And she is brand new technically, but not without relation to anyone else. But we'll get to that later. Nonetheless, she gets called into the office by her superior, who's telling her that he needs her on a case because they found another body. And that this body was found at this hotel, the same place her mother was murdered. Yes, you guessed it. Grace Ashcroft is the daughter of Elisa Ashcroft. Elisa Ashcroft, obviously from the Resident Evil Outbreak games. Now, first off, I just had to say this. I did not have this on my bingo card, having Elisa Ashcroft's daughter being the main character of Resident Evil 9/Requiem. But I think the big part here is obviously when this is brought up, we see Elisa remember the past instances of going back to where the scene of the crime is, where she was murdered in this hotel. If she was to be murdered, apparently she's been dead for 8 years from this given point. But you know about Resident Evil, they're never dead until you really confirm it. So we don't know if Elisa is dead. I like to think she's not, but that's just what the trailer goes. And sometimes trailers can be deceiving because it would kind of lame to have a character we haven't seen that long just kind of be dead. Because, as I said, Resident Evil Outbreak is definitely a game a lot of people in the Resident Evil fandom would like to see brought back as a remaster, remake, whatever. But nonetheless, yes, Grace is her daughter. But having brought this file up by her superior, we see Grace have memories of the past of this incident, as well as having a scene where she apparently, we don't know if this is in the past or if this happened currently, where she's strapped down on this seeming like bed or whatever, and she's got an IV in her arm, and I don't know if they're pumping her with a new virus or whatever the case. We don't get too much context, but it doesn't look like she's enjoying it, so we don't know who took her. Is it the person that supposedly murdered her mother or whatnot? But there's a lot of questions that need to be asked, but nonetheless, the scene then transitions to probably, other than who the main character is, the other big part of this whole trailer. And I gotta admit, when I saw this, I thought, no, this couldn't be true, but it is true, and it is happening. So, funny story. A few months ago, I was talking with my best friend, and we were talking about, how would you conclude Leon's story in a Resident Evil? We had to do one more story with Leon. And he basically said, you know what? I would have him go back to Raccoon City. Go back, and even though it was supposed it was destroyed, go back and see how some new cult or whatever took it over, or the government or whatever happens. Well, I'll tell you what, he's probably smiling right now because he looks like a so-called genius. Because, yes, right, people, we are going back to the scene of the crime. We are going back to Raccoon City. We see the crater, and we see a lot of towns and buildings right next to it as if they've been rebuilding, or maybe they survived the damage. I mean, this takes place 25 plus years after, the missile hit the town, so we don't know what has really happened. And remember that picture I showed you earlier about government facilities, abandoned government facilities. So is it too much stretch to say that the government retook it? And here's the other famous image. It basically confirms that the RPD. Yep, we are going back to the RPD, the scene of the crime. And I gotta admit, I'm intrigued by that. And as I said, my best friend's probably sitting there rolling over laughing. But yes, we are going back to Raccoon City. There's so much potential to a lot of things here, and kind of see what's going on, how the city's progressed. Maybe seeing familiar areas and maybe seeing brand new areas. But yeah, there's a lot of potential to a lot of crazy things with going back here to basically the whole town that started this whole dilemma. And while we did have this trailer, we also did have a few enemy types that we saw. Not many, but a few. And I know one of them is probably going to get a few people happy, not just for nostalgic feeling, but just because it feels so Raccoon City. But we had an infected enemy, and I can't confirm if he is or not. He just looks like it from the image and a picture in the trailer. But we basically had a police officer that basically looks like a zombie. And I don't know if he's your traditional zombie or more enhanced version of the zombie, but he's kind of got that whole, Raccoon City zombie style vibe there. So I know a lot of people are going to be happy about that, to see that. And I'm happy to see zombies come back, because they're always going to have a thing for Resident Evil, no matter how advanced viruses get and all. We also get another enemy, which is one we didn't see too much because of the lighting, how dark it is in a hallway. But what I find interesting is not so much that this enemy here, which looks big, look, it's got 4 legs. It's the perspective of it, which gives me a perspective of, is this game going to be first person? Because a lot of these things are either cutscenes, but that perspective doesn't seem like it's something in a third person. It gives more of a first person. So is Resident Evil Requiem going to be first person? Or is it going to go back and forth over the shoulder? Or maybe that's just a certain sequence. We don't know. But that's kind of what it gave me, that vibe. So people are wondering what the perspective of this game is, because we still don't 100% know for sure. We also get this mysterious man who doesn't turn around and talks about how Grace is the chosen one and how he's been waiting for her and she's the one. Whatever that means, we don't know. And that doesn't mean maybe she's got some special power, or maybe it's just her knowledge. We don't know. We don't get too much to go on to. But I don't know who that could be. It could be a brand new character. It could be an existing character. I don't know. But we can only speculate from what we got. The other interesting fellow we saw, and we saw this when Grace was thinking her flashbacks of her mother, is this guy in a black robe basically coming out of nowhere, and he's got this guy basically with a bag over his head. We don't know who he is, but I'm assuming he's the person responsible for all the murders and the bodies, whether he's some cultist or he's working for the government. We don't know, but there's a lot of mysterious individuals, a lot of things going on, and a lot of things that we can speculate, but at least now we can speculate because we've seen them. We don't have to just be shooting out in the dark and hoping we hit something. And one more cool scene that I did see was just another shot of kind of like a hallway that gives me kind of like a, I don't know, like a mansion vibe. Like, oh, so I don't know, maybe it's one of the abandoned buildings after the missile hit Raccoon City. God forbid if we actually go back to the actual mansion. Can you imagine if we go back to the actual mansion? Maybe they rebuilt it after it was destroyed in Resident Evil 1. Who knows? Because, as I said before, I never thought we'd go back to Raccoon City, but here we are going back to Raccoon City, and then, of course, we get the release date, as I told earlier, February 27th next year. That's one thing I will say about Capcom. I will give them credit. When they do finally show their trailer, it's usually coming out about 6 to 8 months later, so I will give them that. And, as I said, they really tried to tease us and piss us off during the whole Summer Game Fest, where they had like the Lady D advertising the sale with Resident Evil games in the store right now. Then they had her going up again, and one of the people making the game saying, hey, it'll be here in a blink. And then they finally ended the show with that. So yeah, well played, Capcom, well played. But now I want to give my whole personal thoughts on this, as well as some questions you might have had, because obviously I know what a lot of people are going to be saying. Okay, we've heard so many rumors about Leon is the main character. Leon's the main character. He's one of them. We didn't see Leon in his trailer. Now, I believe we might have heard him because there was a voice in there. It was when they were showcasing, the Raccoon City and the RPD. I swear the voice sounds like him. It may not be him. Maybe it's just a little similarity. But it doesn't mean that even if it wasn't him, it doesn't mean that he's not in there. Because honestly, if we're going to go back to Raccoon City and the RPD, I don't see how you can't have Leon. Obviously, that's the game that made him famous and all. And I just don't think all these reports can be wrong where, Leon, they're all dead set and Leon's guaranteed to be there. Maybe they just wanted to show off Grace first, which I perfectly understand if you want to give a main character. Because if you had Leon in there, no one would be looking at Grace. They'd just be all going talking about Leon. So obviously, I think maybe that would have been a smart point. Or it's possible maybe he's not in this game. Who knows? But, and as I said before, just from that one shot with the enemy, you know, that was crawling the walls, is this a first-person perspective? I don't know. It could be over the shoulder. We don't know. And when does this take place in a time period? We don't know. We're not given that information at this point in time. Maybe they'll reveal it the next few days, because sometimes they'll show a trailer, and then a day or two later they'll give more information. But we got a trailer, we got a release date, and that's a good thing, and that's what we want. So now we can spend these next months to the next trailer they reveal or information they show off. Gives us more. But how do I personally feel about it? One, I love the fact we're going back to Raccoon City. I think that's cool, has a lot of potential. And once again, it goes in that whole government stuff. We know the government is not good in Resident Evil. We know that. We've seen that. And would it be so crazy to see, hey, they took over the whole missile launch that destroyed Raccoon City? They came there and just started rebuilding it. It looks like in a few scenes, like, I don't know if these are scenes outside of Raccoon City. We don't know. But it looks like it's like a city that has, you know, quite a few people in there, people walking around, like, you know, people live there, and it's weird how the trailer transitions that, and we don't know if that's in the past or it's somewhere else, but a lot of questions, but good questions to ask. And also, if they are going to push, you know, Grace being a main character, you know what I've said about brand new characters, I don't hate them, but this is taking a little bit different because Grace is the daughter of an existing character. I do hope we don't just find, oh, Elisa Ashcroft is dead and that's it. We just see her after the fact that they're dead. I do hope maybe there's an explanation and we do see her, because that is a character. I know they're not famous Resident Evil character, but they are an existing character that did have some good moments in Resident Evil Outbreak, and they did have a lot of carryover, so I like to see more than just, oh, they're dead and that's the end of it. But overall, I am interested to see the direction they take and what they're going to do with it. And also, are there going to be more familiar faces? Because I just feel like this type of thing, with this type of government cover-up and conspiracy, I feel like that has to involve quite a few people. Maybe it doesn't. Who knows? Only time will tell. But I am finally happy that, I think I'm just more happy that we can at least have something to talk about and not just blindly speculating. I think all of us, no matter what you feel about this trailer, can agree with that. But at the end of the day, as I like to say, that is my opinion. I want to hear you guys' opinion. How do you feel about this trailer? Does it excite you? Possibility of what they're going to do? Are you excited the fact that we have, you know, a new main character who is the daughter of an existing character? Are you someone like me who felt like, you know, I hope, you know, Elisa somehow, some way is still alive, because it'd be kind of lame to just kill them off screen or just show a flashback of them dying and not actually show them in real time. Are you wondering where the hell is Leon, since a lot of people were expecting to see him? Do you think he'll come in later or not? Do you think some other famous character is going to come in? How do you feel about returning to Raccoon City? I think that has to be points right there. That's just cool and interesting, because for the longest time we kept hearing about, oh, it's going to be on an island in Singapore and East Asia or whatever, and now we're going back to the scene of the crime, and that's a really cool part there. And also, did Capcom piss you off that they finally revealed at the end if you watch the whole Summer Games Fest? Because I'll admit, I didn't care too much for the Summer Games Fest. I don't think it was bad, just not too many things personally interest me. I'd have to see more with it, but then they kept trolling us with that, and they finally showed off. But let me know down below in the comment section. But thank you very much for watching. I intend to have more Resident Evil Requiem videos for you. And by the way, what do you feel about the name Requiem? You know, what do you think that could also surmise? I mean, we can come up with a lot of things there, but let me know down below. But that is going to be it. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video, and hopefully I can see you guys back in the next one. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and hope to see you all later. Peace.